You ever get an offer that's so unfair, it just feels like an insult? I mean, so insulting that you'd rather walk away with absolutely nothing than take the deal? Well, the reason why, it has a lot less to do with modern economics and way more to do with our ancient primal brain. So let's dive into the pretty wild world of primate economics.
Okay, let me ask you something. Real simple. Would you ever reject free money? I mean, just imagine it. You're walking down the street. Someone offers you cash, no strings attached. Would you ever say no? It sounds like a totally crazy question, right? But just stick with me here, because the answer, well, it's way more complicated than you'd think.
All right, so to really get to the bottom of this impulse, economists came up with this brilliant little test. It's called the ultimatum game. And what it does is it basically pits pure, cold logic against our really powerful gut-level sense of what's fair.
So here's how it works. Imagine this. A researcher gives a total stranger $100, but there's a catch. The only way they get to keep it is if they share some of it with you. Now, they can offer you $50, 20, 10, or they can offer you just one single dollar. If you say yes to their offer, you both get to keep the cash. But, and this is the key part, if you say no, you both get nothing, zero. So they look at you and they offer you $1 while they plan to walk away with 99. What do you do?
I mean, logically, a dollar is better than nothing, right? It's free money. But what's fascinating is that in study after study, the result is exactly the same. Most people get mad. They reject the $1 offer. They literally choose to get nothing at all rather than accept a deal that feels just so unfair. And this right here absolutely baffled classical economists. Why on earth would we act so irrational?
Well, to find the answer, it turns out we have to leave the human world behind for a minute. Because the real clue to our supposedly irrational behavior, it isn't found in us. It's found in what happens when you start playing these exact same games with our closest relatives.
And this brings us to the field of primate economics. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Scientists studying how monkeys and apes handle things like trade, risk, and fairness. The whole idea is, look, if we see these same economic behaviors in them, it probably means these instincts are super ancient and hardwired right into us too. So that's the big idea, right? Maybe our super complex modern economic behavior, maybe it has roots that go back millions and millions of years. And by watching our economic ancestors, we might just be able to decode the really strange choices we make ourselves. Okay, and this brings us to one of the most famous and honestly one of the most entertaining experiments in this whole field. All it involves is a simple trade, 2 monkeys, and a couple of different kinds of snacks. So let's meet our subject, the brown capuchin monkey. Now, these little guys are known for being incredibly smart and super social. But, as we are about to find out, they also have a sense of justice that could honestly rival our own. The experiment itself is just brilliantly simple. First, you get 2 capuchins side by side and you teach them to trade a little token for a snack. Okay, easy enough. In phase 1, everything's fair. They both hand over a token, they both get a slice of cucumber. And you know what? Everybody's happy. They'll do this all day long. But then the researchers introduce one tiny little change. One monkey trades its token and gets the usual cucumber, but then it has to sit and watch as its neighbor does the exact same task and gets a sweet, juicy grape, a way better reward. And that is when things get really interesting.
And the reaction is, it's immediate and it is intense. The monkey who got the cucumber doesn't just get a little annoyed, it gets furious. It starts screaming at the researcher, it's shaking the cage, and as the lead researcher Friends de Waal put it, it does the primate equivalent of flipping the table. He's literally throwing that cucumber right back in the researcher's face.
And this just perfectly shows the core finding, right? The capuchin who got the worst deal flat out rejects the payment. I mean, a second ago, that cucumber was a perfectly fine reward. But now, seeing that blatant inequality, it's not a reward anymore. It's an insult. And the monkey would rather go hungry than be treated unfairly. Sound familiar? So, okay, let's connect the dots here. What on earth does a furious monkey throwing a piece of cucumber have to do with you turning down a free dollar? Well, as it turns out, absolutely everything. I mean, look at this. The parallel is just, it's undeniable. One rejects a cucumber, the other rejects a dollar. The actual currency doesn't even matter. What matters is the context. In both situations, a reward that was perfectly acceptable a moment before becomes an insult when you see someone else getting a better deal. It's the exact same deep-seated gut-level response to injustice.
So what economists were calling irrationality, biologists have a different name for: inequity aversion. And it's not irrational at all. It's a powerful, hardwired survival instinct. See, for a social species like us, or capuchins, cooperation is everything. And this sense of outrage over unfairness, it's like a built-in policing mechanism. It punishes the cheaters, and it keeps the group stable and working together, even if it means you have to take a small personal loss to teach someone a lesson.
So when you understand this deep, deep history of our economic brain, it really changes how you should think about, well, everything, from asking for a raise at work to international trade deals. It's never just about the numbers on a page. It's about these ancient rules of engagement that we all live by.
So, what are the big takeaways here? First, our sense of fairness isn't some new enlightened idea. It's an ancient, hardwired instinct. Second, those emotional responses we have, they're not a bug in our economic decision-making. They're a critical feature. Real cooperation completely depends on the belief that things are going to be distributed fairly. And finally, it shows that no matter how rational we think we are, our choices are always, always being influenced by our primate brain. So the next time you're in some kind of negotiation and you get that little gut feeling, that feeling that you're being taken advantage of, and you feel that hot flash of anger, don't just dismiss it. You're not being overly emotional or difficult. What you're doing is tapping into a very, very old and very powerful instinct for justice. You're basically channeling your inner capuchin monkey.
And that really leaves us with a big final thought to chew on. We build these entire massive economic models based on the idea that humans are rational actors. But if our most basic, fundamental instincts about value and fairness were forged millions of years ago, not in a modern marketplace, but in a small troop of primates, then how rational can we ever truly be?